Hey, Thirst for Knowledge. This is Sammy T coming to you with another video. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about tilt. What is tilt? Why do we tilt? There's tilting in not just Magic, poker, things that happen with your personal life, but tilting is like an emotional response that you give out when you feel you are entitled to something. So we'll talk about it as it relates to Magic. So, no one's immune to this. I used to tilt a lot when I was emotionally attached to Magic, and that was because I felt like, like say I'm playing, it could be something as little as an FNM. I'm playing to 3-0 my FNM in the final round. I'm playing against somebody who I deem to be of subpar quality of a player, and something happens and I mulligan a couple times, my opponent draws his bomb, or I get mana screwed, we don't really play Magic, and I end up losing, and the reality is, you're gonna lose about as much as you win. Typically in Magic, you probably win 60 to 70% of the games that you play, if you're very good, but variance is a huge factor. So when you lose to somebody who you think is worse than you feel entitled to have won because you're better than them. And Magic would be even better if the better player always won. But by the same token, Magic is also great because if bad players could never win, then they would just leave the game, right? So like we all like get upset about losing when we lose somebody who we think is worse. If I was to play, John Finkel tomorrow and I beat him in like a high stakes match of Magic, I'm sure he would feel like coming into it, he would have the advantage over me. But anything can happen when we have the cards, and you know, if he doesn't know who I am, or like relative skill level, and he thinks he's that much better, then yeah, of course, he could feel entitled to a win. Now, entitlement and an emotional connection are the two main reasons that you tilt. You wouldn't get upset by losing Magic if you weren't emotionally invested. I remember back in 2012, 2013, the years when I was like super grinding, like locally super grinding to get on the Pro Tour consistently. When I would lose then to players who were bad, I would just lose my mind, And this even actually, when I think about it, 2008 to 2010, before I made on the Pro Tour, oh my God, like I was really, really horrible and really mean. And, I'm no exception. There are so many Magic players who are just like me. And that's because I was emotionally, connected to how I did in Magic. I valued myself as how I did in Magic. So if I went to a PTQ and O2'd, I felt horrible and I reflected that outwardly, but that was because I felt horrible about myself, and that's because I took how I did today to be a reflection of how valuable I am. And if I owe two, then I must be awful. So because you feel so entitled to the win, and because you're so emotionally caught up in it, you start to tilt. Now, you know, you're probably wondering, who cares? What if I tilt? What if I lose? The problem is sometimes you'll tilt and you'll still be in the tournament. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you are 6-0 at a Grand Prix, and then you face, like, let's say you play constructed and you place like an amazing matchup. So this matchup you could basically not show up to the round almost and win, but then all of a sudden you mull to 4 twice and your opponent like has the right draws, and you all of a sudden just look up and you're 6-1. And obviously this is upsetting because you may have won some matches that you shouldn't have won before. But when you win at Magic, you attribute it to play skill, and when you lose at Magic, most of the time you attribute it to, oh, I got unlucky. People never think about the matches that they won where their opponents got mana screwed or mana flooded. They never think about the times where their opponent mulliganed, because in those games, oh man, I outplayed my opponent. Even if he drew his mana, I would have beaten him, right? But when you get stuck on land, and these things kind of happen. It's function of Magic. You start blaming your losses purely on luck, and sometimes that may be the case, right? But you still have 2 more rounds to play in this Grand Prix. Okay, cool. We're now 6-1. We still have 2 more rounds to play, so you cannot just be going on tilt. Because when you start going on tilt, you start making these emotional decisions instead of thinking logically. And if you start thinking emotionally, you're going to start taking these very high risk lines, or lines where you're like, oh, they can't top like this, or I'm not going to play around this card because you know what? All my opponents have been getting so lucky today. I'm not even going to bother playing around that, or oh, they can't have it every time. I'm going to attack with all my creatures. If that's Stellar Wreckage, so be it. There's no way they have it. And then you get blown out. In spots where you can play around cards, like I have seen amazing players go on tilt and just completely throw away a match. A very good example about this, if you watch the finals of Pro Tour Kuala Lumpur, um, I forget the player's name, but he's playing against John Finkel in the finals. And he makes an attack with a creature that, he thought, he didn't realize that John's creature had first strike. So his creature went to the bin, and it just like sent him behind so much. And if you saw what he did in the few seconds after, he just conceded. He wasn't over. The game wasn't over by any stretch. And he obviously he was in a worse position, but that game he could have drawn a couple cards that would get him back up, but instead he just threw his deck out, and that was it. And, John was surprised, the commentators were surprised, but he was tilted and he let that overtake him. And the reality is, if you're playing the last round and you get tilted, sure, you know what? Who am I to tell you what you can and how you cannot respond? But you came here to watch how to get better at Magic. And if you're starting to tilt in the middle of a tournament, you need to just, step aside. Don't even talk about the bad beat story because that's just going to make you even more upset. Like, say you got sucked out on your opponent, top deck to 1 outer to win. Don't go and tell all your friends about it during the round. Say, oh, I got unlucky and lost. You can talk about it that night. You can talk about it after the tournament. You can talk about it, after day 1 or day 2 or, whatever day it is. But make sure that while you're still playing, you want to keep that composure. Yeah, cool. It sucks you got unlucky, but you still have a couple rounds to play. You got to keep your head in the game, and you got to keep it going. Because if you are just going to let that ruin your entire tournament, you might as well drop. So I hope that kind of explained a bit about tilt, how to handle it, why you tilt. But just remember, that's an emotional response, and you can control your emotions. Just like if you're at work and you're in a really bad mood, you're not going to start talking to a customer in a really mean way. You're not going to start swearing at the customer. You can control it there. You can control it here too. So guys, make sure that you hit like on the video, hit subscribe so you get notifications, so that you'll get notified when the next video comes out. All right, see ya.